Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is such a special event for us. This is the first topic-driven discussion I've had with the Fit Life Squad, and I've opened it up to the larger community. So we have members of my Fit Life Squad on Facebook. We have members of the 10,000 Black Vegan Women group. We have women outside of that. I appreciate however you got here. I appreciate you for coming tonight. It's a great conversation that we're going to have with Dr. Rowe, or Dr. Rovenia Brock is her full name. I've known her for a while, but if you don't know who she is, I'm just going to go ahead and read her bio real quick and then we'll get started. Okay, give me one moment. Dr. Rowe, known as America's nutrition coach on the Dr. Oz show, served on the show's medical advisory board for 7 years. She served as nutrition coach on The View, helped Sherry Shepherd lose weight, on the Meredith Vieira show and Anderson Cooper's daytime talk show as well. She regularly contributed to the Today Show, Good Morning America, CBS This Morning, and was a regular contributor to NPR. To date, she has helped over 1.5 million people lose more than 6 million pounds. She is most widely known as the host of Heart and Soul, one of my favorite shows of all time, the first national network health and fitness television show for Black women. Dr. Rowe has been the go-to nutrition coach for Fortune 500 companies who established a brand of integrity, honor, genuine care, and results for the women and the families she serves. She has received numerous honors, including recipient of the Ebony Power 100 list of the most influential African Americans twice, the most distinguished alumni award of Howard University twice, and called one of the top 5 nutritionists in the US by More and Consumer magazines. She is the third African American to be featured on the cover of Women's World magazine for her work helping women to lose weight. Dr. Rowe is also host of the Dr. Rowe On Demand podcast and coaches women in their prime through the maze of weight loss, curbing sugar cravings, overcoming emotional eating, and a myriad of life challenges. So is it any wonder why I invited her here? And let me just say, I've known Dr. Rowe for a while too. When I was a journalist working at BET, I covered health, and she was my person. She was the person I always called for advice, for contributions to stories, as well as, I watch Heart and Soul. So we've been connected for a little bit of time, and we still are. So I'm glad to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Well, I'm grateful to be here with you. I mean, it does my heart glad to connect with everybody tonight, and just always grateful to do anything. You know, I'll do anything for you.
Yeah. Well, I'll get us started. The topic tonight is comfort and stress eating. I am certainly guilty of it myself. I can tell you when I do it, and I've learned how to overcome those things now, but I know all about it. And I'm sure all the women who joined us tonight also do too. Can you talk a little bit about comfort eating? How do you define it? I'm sure it varies for everybody, right? How do you define it?
Before we get into this discussion, I like to know who I'm talking to, right? Okay. So I can see names, but I can't see faces. So for those of you who are not in prison, can you turn your video on so that I can see you? If you are not behind the wall on a chain gang or in prison, if you are not being held against your will, please turn your video on. That's what I'm talking about. I love to see people's faces. Yes. Hello. You know, it's one thing to have technology, work for us, but it can also be like a third, wheel. It can also be sort of an impediment to the connection that we have to each other. See, so this, when I can look at you and you can see me, at least it shores up, it firms up our connection. And connection is what I live to do. I wake up to not only help women and to help families, but I wake up to connect with you as well, because it is through our connection that we get what we've come for. It's through our connection that you get the help that I have to offer. It's through our connection that I get to understand what it is you need. And it's through our connection that you actually make the change that you wish to in in this or any process, right? So it does my heart glad to be with you tonight. I want to thank you all, each and all, for showing up. Because when you do this, you show up for yourself. But I also want to let you know that I'm grateful that you decided to spend this time with us, because clearly you could have been other places doing a million other things, but you chose to be here. So for that, I thank you. So Stacey, what I would like to do, I'm going to answer your question.
Sure, sure.
But what I'd love to do is I'd love to make this an interactive conversation, right? Because you have things to contribute. I've got some things to contribute, and we put those things on the table, and hopefully we go somewhere in the process of taking you to where you want to be. My job as a coach is I help women to go from where they are to where they wish to be. So whatever that looks like for you, let's hope, my hope and my intention is that tonight we can make some headway, we can make some progress toward that end. Is that okay? Now, if you would, because I don't know where you are, now that I see all your beautiful faces, your lovely smiling faces, and this is so much better than the view of the screen that had your name, I gotta tell you. So much better. So now that I see that, let me know where you are. I always like to ask everyone to put your city, rep your city in the chat. I'm from Washington, D.C. So I'm from the D.C. So I, put your city. Okay, I got Pennsylvania, Plainfield, New Jersey, Selma Cash. That's such a cool name, Selma Cash. Selma Cash is from Raleigh, North Carolina. We got Columbus, Ohio in the house. Patricia Banks, my homegirl from DC. Oh, we got a lot of the DMV in here. Mitchellville, Maryland. Yes, yes. Chicago. Carol is here from Chicago. Deborah from Maryland, Upper Marlboro, or as they might say, Upper Marlboro. So yes, yes, yes. Fort Lauderdale in the house. And okay, we got Los Angeles in the house. Okay, good. So we got LA in the house. We got some of everybody. Baltimore in the house. Baltimore. We got Houston in the house, H-Town. So yeah, and Wilmington, Delaware. Keep it going, ladies. This is wonderful. I love to know where you are, in as much as I want to know who you are. So this whole conversation about stress eating, I want you to type yes or no. Type yes in the chat if you consider yourself a stress eater. Type yes in the chat if you consider yourself a stress eater. I got one yes. Oh, it's just, okay. I was going to say, is it
okay. Well, all right.
I was going to say, is it just you, Lejeune? Okay, so lots of yeses. Okay, and someone even said, Penny said she's a recovering stress eater. Okay, so recovering. And Michelle, yours, it depends. Okay. And then I got a sometimes. Okay, you always have one or two of those in a bunch, right? It's always one. It's like, even if I go to talk to people about losing weight, it's always that one person in the crowd. It's like, but how do I gain weight? And I'm like, first by putting your hands down, because I don't want you to get the beat down from all these ladies that are here. So recovering, it depends, sometimes, seldom, but I had a resounding number of yeses. And that is typically the case. At least you know who you are. You know that there is an issue. You might not know what the issue is born out of. You might not know the origin of the issue, but you know that there is an issue. For those of you who said yes, flat out yes, I run to food in times of stress. For those of you who say sometimes or recovering, I take it, Brittany, recovering means that you are working on it, or you used to do it, you used to eat out of stress more often, and now less often. If that's the case, type yes. So yeah, the whole business of emotional eating. So a number of people do not know what emotional eating is. So let me just tell you very quickly we're talking about let's define emotional eating. So for me, in my world and with all of the clients that I coach, emotional eating is overeating comfort foods to quell your pain or to quell the drama that you are creating. Okay. So emotional eating means you find yourself, everybody mute yourself.
Yeah, I'm looking. Okay.
All right. Well, Stacey, you'll handle that. So
Yep.
emotional eating is you find yourself in front of a refrigerator at a time when you might have had a bad day, or at a time when you might have had a bad breakup, or at a time when you suffered loss, or you had some negative feelings that were sort of taking you down, that were overcoming you, and you wanted to solve the problem or ease the pain of that experience with food. So it is standing in front of the refrigerator or the freezer looking for a pint of ice cream if something has gone wrong in that moment, right? Or it is the bag of potato chips, or it is the fried chicken, or it is the mashed potatoes or the mac and cheese. Think of comfort foods, or think of things that are sweet. That happens to be at the top of the list for a number. I would say the majority of emotional eaters that I know and that I coach, sweet sugar at the top of the list. Somebody said yes. Potato chips and sweets, okay, for Melody. Okay. And sometimes, and please do us a favor. Okay, right. And sometimes though, Melody, like you have potato chips and sweets, so you have both ends of the spectrum. Sometimes it's salty foods and crunchy foods, and for other people, it is sugary foods, or foods that make you feel warm and tingly inside, like mac and cheese or mashed potatoes and gravy or something like that. I can tell you that for different emotions, often you have different cravings. People experience different cravings for different kinds of foods, which actually match up to the emotions. Like, for example, crunchy foods and salty foods, and crunchy specifically when there's a lot of anger or frustration, when there's sadness, when there is unworthiness, feeling that you're not good enough, or feeling that you don't measure up, or feeling bewildered in any kind of way. That usually is about sweets and comfort foods. But what I want to talk to you about before we get into these specifics in terms of food, I want you to know that there's one thing that's much more important than the foods that you eat when we talk about processing our emotions through food, because emotional eating is really using food as a crutch, right? It is using food for something other than sustenance, which is its intended purpose. And the uses of food have everything to do with the emotions that you're experiencing. So people process their emotions through the use or the aid of food. But let's talk about why this happens. Let's go back I want to get to the crux of this, and I want you to let's see what comes up for you in your particular situation. First of all, if we talk about using food to aid as a crutch, then for me, it's much more important, rather than knowing what you're eating. So maybe you're on a specific diet, whether it's to lose weight or whether it's to eat healthy, whatever your diet is. Before I even want to know what you're eating, my job is to find out what's eating you. So my job is to help you to connect your emotions to their real origin. So what I mean by that is that as adults, we've learned to process our life and the events of our life in a certain way. And we learned this a long time ago. There is an entire program for your life that sort of guides how you're going to respond in one situation or another, right? Maybe you have a coworker who is bothersome in some way, or has offended you in some way. You process that in a certain way. Maybe you have a spouse or a partner who has made you feel a certain way, something other than what you want to feel. So made you feel less than yourself. You process that in a specific way. What I'm saying to you is that we learn how to guide, how to manage and navigate our lives early in life. But here's the problem. If you don't address your childhood experiences, those experiences that you have in our formative years, they will dictate the way you navigate life as an adult. Does that make sense? Say yes. Type yes in the chat if I'm making sense. If anything that I say tonight resonates with you, I want you to type yes in the chat. Okay, so I'm getting some yeses. So you get me. Okay, great. So here's the thing. There are a number of traumas. So when we think of trauma, many times what comes to mind is something awful, like something horrific, like being violated or, being more than mistreated, but being abused, like physically abused or sexually abused or molested or, kidnapped or whatever. I mean, really drastic things we think of as traumatic. But what you may not realize is that even the way a person speaks to you can be traumatic, right? Because as a child, let's just say you hear an adult or people around you in your circle refer to you in a way that is less than who you are, in a way that's really offensive and doesn't really define you, but with those words, with hurtful words, with spiteful words. And sometimes people are not aware that that's the case. It's not always intentional, but with those kinds of words, that can really pierce the soul. This can damage a person for the rest of her life. And what I mean is that if you are told in any way, by words or by deeds, that you don't matter, that you're not enough, guess what? That's trauma. And it is trauma that until you recognize it and are able to fix it will dictate the way you navigate life for the rest of your life. And so what I'm saying to you is that our past traumas and the drama that shows up in our life, sometimes that we call to ourselves, is a result of those past traumas. So what I want to know is what the past traumas, my job is to help you connect your past trauma to the reasons you make the food choices that you do. Does that make sense? Type yes in the comments if this resonates. Okay, good. So for those of you who might prefer sweets, and especially at a time when you have had a day that was really hard, a really tough, so if there's some tough experience that you're going through, and in that moment you resort to sweets, I would want to know, like, tell me about yourself. What I'm saying to you is that we have to connect we got to connect the dots between our past traumas and our modern day drama, our current drama. So I want to ask you a couple of things. So one, I want to know about your attachments. How many of you have attachments? And I don't mean to your children or to your spouses. I'm talking about attachments like comfort. Anybody attached to comfort, being comfortable? Like, I have to be comfortable. If I'm not comfortable, then life isn't working for me. If comfort is an attachment for you, type it in the chat. Yes, okay. So I'm getting some. How about money? How about money? Is money? All right, who's attached to money? Okay, anybody attached to money? Meaning money makes you feel better about yourself if you have it, and feel worse or less than yourself if you don't. So if you don't have money, then somehow you don't measure up because you're without the money. If you do, then you're like the boss because you do, because you have money, right? Okay, what about pleasure? How about pleasure? Who's attached to pleasure? Anybody? Okay, yes to money. Somebody said, Michelle said, I have to think about that. Okay, give us some thought, Michelle. I got some more words. Let's see if you have any attachments to some of these other things. How about pride? Anybody attached to pride? Being prideful? How about perfection? So I'm getting to the hard ones and the deep ones now. Who's attached to perfection? Anybody attached? Okay, somebody said, yes, I'm prideful. Pleasure, yes, I do like pleasure and pride, yes. How about perfection? Everything has to be perfect, and when it's not, I am out of sorts. I am out of my body. I am not functioning well or in a healthy way if things in my environment are not perfect, if the people in my environment or in my life are not perfect. And so I am, because I'm attached to perfection, I'm going to make everybody around me miserable. I'm not aware of it at the time, but they are. For everybody who's attached to perfection, the people in your life and in your sphere are catching hell, because everybody's got to be perfect with the way that they live and the way that they keep the house and the way that they eat and the way that they move and the way that they do everything. They must be in order for you to be comfortable. So perfection. Okay. Anybody? Yeah. So we do have a lot of people are recovering. That's good in a way though, because it means you're working on it. So I love this. You're doing the work and it's necessary. Who's attached to validation? Validation. You need other people to validate you in order for you to feel worthy, in order for you to feel good about yourself. Who's attached to validation? Yes, validation. Brittany. Good, Brittany. Because the only way you're going to be able to fix this is you first got to face it. You first have to know that it exists. You can't fix what you don't know is there, right? So attached to, and here's Renee, a recovering validation person. Yay, you, Renee, you're recovering, but that means you're working on it. Yes, okay. So being attached to validation, like I said, means that you need others outside of you to make you feel worthy of being, right? So validation, how about being attached to approval? Who's attached to approval? You need the approval of others, you know, like you did something, you know it was good, and you ask your girlfriends, hey, was this any good? What did you think about this? Was this okay? Is that okay? You know, you just did something and you come away, hey, was that okay? So, so we go around looking for other people to approve us and to approve of us. Okay, Michelle says no, and a resounding no. Good for you, Michelle. Good for you. Okay, how about drama? Who's attached to drama? There are a lot of women that are attached to drama, but there's some men that are too. So I'm not gonna say this is not a woman thing. But I see a lot of people saying no drama, and that's spectacular. But there are a few folks who like drama. We don't know it, but we do. We're attached to drama, and we need drama all the time. Then me, myself, personally, I like my drama on the plate. I like a good dramatic food. I like my drama on the stage. I love a great dramatic performance, and I like my drama in clothes. I love a good rap. You know what I mean? I love a good cape or a good rap, but I don't want it in my life. I want no drama in my life. And it looks like I'm in the right crowd, because I see a lot of folks who also want no drama. Some people want, DJ says she likes drama she likes drama on TV, and Fulani likes her drama on stage. Yes, yes, ladies, that's what I'm talking about. But there are many, many people who are attached to drama, and they too, like those that are attached to perfection, make life miserable for everyone around them. Because when life isn't dramatic, and I mean not dramatic in a good way, not dramatic on stage and, you know, in clothing and in food. I'm talking about dramatic, like their day-to-day has to be dramatic, then they don't feel worthy. They don't feel good enough, if you will. Okay, well, how about being seen? Anybody attached to being seen? Being seen, you felt invisible most of your life, or throughout your life. Maybe you felt invisible. Anybody attached to being seen? Yes, okay. Now I find that for Black women, this is a big attachment. And it is a big attachment for the cultural mores that are a part of our community and that are part of the larger culture in this country. and cultural mores like colorism, and all these other isms. But for Black women, and also because of systemic racism, okay, let's just call that what it is. For Black women, the attachment to being seen is real because we've been treated like we were invisible since we've been here in this country. That is the nature of our historical reference in America. We have been treated like, the Black woman's aesthetic wasn't appreciated. If you had a big butt, you had to be Kim Kardashian to get some, you see what I mean? Whereas Black women have been walking around with big derrieres since we've been here, since the beginning of our, since our origin, right? And suddenly melanin is in, and I'm glad, but for a long time, it wasn't. And so we were treated as though we were invisible. But I wanted to say, I bring this up, Desiree, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I bring this up because it's real for us and not necessarily in an unhealthy way. It's not that we're processing the reality of our lives in an unhealthy way. As in these other examples that I gave before, this is a real thing, the attachment to being seen. So, but it can go south, we can process the attachment to being seen in a way that makes us feel unworthy. So there's a healthy balance, which is what I'm looking for. What about the attachment to past traumas? Now, see, this is where we get into the deep work when we start talking about dealing with emotional eating and how to handle it and how to manage it and really how to rid ourselves from it. Remember early on, I said that we really do have to investigate what our past traumas were. Is there anyone who's attached to past traumas? Meaning you keep reliving whatever the trauma was, you're living it over and over again, and that trauma dictates the way that you process life current day. Because maybe whatever it was, you didn't get help for it. You could have been ignored, whatever the trauma was. Maybe the adult caretakers in your life just kind of pushed it aside, ignored it, and did not, didn't honor you in your suffering. Maybe that's the case. So if that's the case, it will always, so being bullied as a child is definitely, Stacey, is definitely a trauma. It's absolutely a trauma. Denise says her past trauma haunts her. I'm so sorry, Denise, that you experienced the trauma, whatever it was, but I'm here to tell you and everyone listening that whatever you've been through in the past, you are worthy of love. You deserve it. You owe it to yourself, and you are worthy of respect. Everyone else owes that to you, just as you owe it to yourself. And the fact that you are here means you are here with purpose. There is no life without purpose. I want you to know that. There's not a single life on this planet that is here without purpose. You are here for a specific purpose. And our job really is to get on with the business of learning what that is. But just know that because you are here, you are supposed to be here, and you are worthy of the love, the respect, all of those things that you require as a human being, right? So I want you to know that whatever you've been through, it doesn't mean that you have to continue to live through it. Whatever you've been through, you're here now. And this is a point at which you can make some change and you can turn your life around, whatever that looks like for you. I know it's a big group. So I'm not going to call anybody out for whatever the traumas are, but just know that you are worthy of love, respect, and you are perfect as you were made, you with your beautiful self. So I don't know what your traumas are, but I just want you to know that. The point is, when we move through life in a way that is dominated by what we've been through, it's difficult to get everything out of life that we've come here for. It's difficult for you to live your dreams. It's difficult for you to process, for you to achieve your goals. It's difficult for you to get unstuck, and you will remain stuck as long as that that thing, whatever the event or events were that traumatized you, from which you suffered, as long as that's present in your mind, then everything else is colored or marred by that experience or those experiences. And so that's the reason why we have to get in touch with what those experiences are in order to move your life forward. Now, the reason why we're having this conversation is because these experiences have a lot to do, for many people, everything to do with the reason they process their trouble, they process their pain through food. It's the reason why they resort to food. You see what I mean? So it's really essential that we have this conversation. Before talking about food itself, because food itself is really a very small part of emotional eating, believe it or not. It seems like it's the star, but it isn't. It's the feelings that are the star. The food is just an accompaniment. It's a symptom of a much larger problem, if that makes sense. If that makes sense, type yes in the chat. Okay, so Desiree says, my relationship with my father and his new family. Okay. Couple of attachments. Okay, you can't narrow them down, but you'll listen and learn. Okay, no worries. Hopefully you will find something here that relates to you and your situation that you'll be able to use for your situation, Desiree. But whatever that relationship is with your father and with your family or his new family, you will have to make some peace with it, and a peace that makes sense for you, to give yourself what you need. Here's what I want you to do, though. In order to help you to let go of these past traumas, for all of you who said you've experienced past traumas, I want you to do something. If you have a pen and pad and you're taking notes, here's where we start writing it down. I'm going to give you 4 easy steps that I want to help you to get through this. So the first thing is, I want you to make a list of all of your attachments. Now, I rattled off a whole bunch of attachments. Security, I don't know if I talked about security or control, because those are 2 big ones, security and control. But security, control, perfection, validation, approval, also being well liked. That's another one that trips up a lot of my clients. Being well liked. People want to be liked. And I think we should leave that to Facebook. Do you know what I'm saying? A Facebook like is cool. People don't have to like you. What they should do, what you should demand is their respect, because you're going to be respectful to others. I mean, it's a 2-way street, but they don't have to like you. People don't have to like you for you to show up fully as you. The conversation that we're having right now is about you showing up as your authentic self, so that you no longer need the aid of food to get you through your day, right? No longer need the aid of food to get you through your process of ironing out your feelings, of dealing with your feelings. So I would just say this: being well liked, being validated, being approved, all of those kinds of concepts should have no real demand on your time and your energy, because you've got to approve yourself first. This is about self-love, self-validation, self-acceptance. And of course, before you can get to self-love, you've got to be able to accept yourself for who and what you are right now, right here, right now. In the body that you're in right now, and that's a whole other discussion, but in the body that you're in, even as you're trying to make improvements. You're working with Stacy, so I know you're already trying to make improvements. You're working on your body, but even in that body, you need to be able to accept yourself for who and what you are at this moment. It's from that self-acceptance that you can get to self-love, and you can get rid of the self-loathing. Okay, so I want you to do this. First, step number 1, you're going to make a list of all of your attachments, right? Money, people, things, looks, appearance, loss, any unhealthy behaviors or events or experiences. All of those things that you're attached to, you're going to make a list of it, right? Number 2, you're going to list the attachments that create imbalance for you. Imbalance that for you. So you'll like an example of what would create an imbalance for you is that you write down that the belief that you believe that you're being beautiful and that your outer body makes you feel a certain way, good or bad. Does that make sense? So if you believe that the fact that you believe, if this is you, if you believe that you're being beautiful or your outer body makes you feel better about yourself or makes you feel good, that's something that creates an imbalance. That's an example of what could create an imbalance. And what I mean by that is two things. One, I want you to know that you have to know that anything outside of you, like any external factors, even your outer body, right? Because you're a soul in a body, right? You know that you're bigger than your looks. You know that you're more important than, as beautiful as you are, you're bigger than this. There's a whole big spirit, a soul that lives inside of you that people don't see, but every time they're with you, they feel it, right? That is the thing that is the most important thing. The rest of this is a shell, which at some point falls away. But what I mean is, if you believe that your survival, that your thriving, your ability to thrive in your life and to move your life forward is based on looks, we have a breakdown. That's where there's an imbalance. We have a breakdown, okay? So anything that causes an imbalance, things that you experienced in the past, connected to your eating patterns, for example, or your shopping patterns, or your relationship patterns. And here's what I want you to do. When you list these concepts that cause imbalance, these attachments that cause imbalance, I want you to, in order to start letting them go, I want you to set your intention. Who does everybody here set intentions? Do you set your intention for what you want out of your, nobody? Okay. Who is that? Okay. So not everyone is setting intentions. Okay. So let's talk about that really quickly. Setting intention just really means I want, like, for example, today, I pray all throughout the day, but there's a big one in the morning, and of course there's one at night, and then I talk to God like all throughout the day. So when I say my prayers, and especially in the morning, okay, somebody says they write down wants and goals. That's good. So wants are close to intention. Intention is your motivation for something. Okay, it's what your motivation is. So I set an intention to be able to connect to your hearts and your minds in an event that it would be a positive change for you in coming here. So I literally set the intention that I wanted to affect you in a way that works for you to help move your life forward. That's my intention. Before I showed up, that's the intention that I set. So you can make an intention of, I'm going to go throughout my day without speaking to myself harshly. I know that you all have been working on negative self-talk, and that's a part of all of this. So I will set the intention today to speak to myself with love and not judgment. Does that make sense? So that's a good intention to set. I will speak to myself today with love, only with love and not judgment. And throughout the day, I would tell you to check your self-talk. I would tell you to make a note. If you find yourself, if a thought creeps up, that's something negative about you, or something demeaning about you, or something that diminishes you, when you feel that thought creeping up, like, oh, I know that was too stupid. I'm too stupid. Why did I do that? See, that's negative self-talk, right? So, or I know every time I look in the mirror, when I look in the mirror, I hate my thighs. That's negative self-talk. Because the truth is, your thighs will work with you to help you tighten them if, in fact, you come from a position of love. If you start at the place where you love you. all of you, even your jiggly parts, right? So if you set an intention to check your self-talk and then write in your journal, I caught myself thinking of such and such today, but then I flipped it and I changed it in that moment. You know why this is important for you to write it down? Because you will always have this to go back and look over. So, and the more you look it over, and the more you look over what you did in the moment to correct a negative action, the more you do that, and the more you do that, and the more you come up with these negative talk, self-talk, you're practicing the kind of behavior that you need to achieve. You see what I mean? So the more you do it and the more you look at what you did to remedy it in the moment, that's practice. And it really does make, for a much better outcome. So in other words, you start to really strengthen that muscle, the muscle which your love yourself muscle. This is a way for you to strengthen it. And you can move on to the rest of the things that you need to fix, okay? So write it in your journal. When you find yourself speaking negatively to yourself, or when you find the thought that just sort of creeps up where it's a negative, some sort of judgment of you, by you, write it down. And then write down what you did to fix it. And the more you do that, the more practice that you gain with this, the less it will happen. Does that make sense? Okay, so that was number 2. Number 3, I want you to write down in your journal, I will focus on the attachment to, this is part of number 2. So I will focus on the attachment, for example, I will focus on my attachment having to be validated, or I'll focus on my attachment, for approval. I will focus on that in order to feel good about myself. So I will focus on eliminating that attachment in order to feel good about myself. That all goes with number 2. Number 3 is this, and this is a big one. Commit to one small change that you can make, and write it down. Write down your one small change that you can make to change this situation. So for example, I will take a walk around the block when I get the urge to binge eat, right? Or when I get the urge to binge eat because I feel unworthy. So instead of eating and going to the kitchen, I will take a walk around the block, or I will dance around the room. Whatever that thing is, that's a positive action that you could take to change this, this negative action and get a better outcome. That's what you want to do. Now, here's the 4th thing. I want you to monitor your progress. So remember I said, if you caught yourself having negative self-talk, you would write it down, and then you would also record what action you took to eliminate that. So monitor your progress. What I want you to do is put a check mark on a calendar each time you follow through on your commitment. Because remember, number 3 was you're going to make a commitment to one small change. We're going to do one small change at a time. Right? So number 4, you're going to monitor your progress by putting a check mark each time you follow through on your commitment to yourself. In each of these actions, you're always honoring yourself. And this is about, self-love is about honoring yourself. It is. It's impossible to love and accept yourself without honoring you, right? And here's what I want you to go away with. There's no one's opinion that should be greater than opinion about you, Brittany, about you, Sharon, about you, Melody, about you, Sonia, everybody. There's no opinion from another person that should about you that should matter more than your own. Does that make sense? So what other people have to say about you is none of your business, is what I'm telling you. It's none of your business. What you have to say about yourself is your business. And that's why the whole negative self-talk and banishing it is so important. Everything that you have to say about you is important. It is of the utmost importance. But what someone else has to say about you, I mean, people pay you compliments and that's nice. That's great. But you can't allow yourself to be defined by another person and their judgment of you cannot matter greater than your own. How you feel about you must be defined by you and not someone else. That's what I'm here to say. It's all of these, it's getting through all of these things. It's living our lives in this way that really does what really help us to work through the whole process of emotional eating. Because as I said before, emotional eating is not about the food, it's more about the feelings. And we have to connect to the feelings. We have to connect really to the experience of our lives. Sometimes we become disconnected from our lives. We become disconnected from ourselves. And we're just kind of moving through life, going through the motions. And that's when mindless eating and emotional eating takes root, when we're moving through life and going through the motions, right? And we're not giving attention to the reasons we feel what we feel. And the final thing I want to say to you about this feeling business is you do have to sit with your feelings. You can't run away from them. That's a whole other discussion. But running away from them is not going to change them. It's not going to change the fact that you feel whatever it is you feel in that moment of unworthiness or of not feeling good enough or of not feeling whatever it is whatever the negative emotion is that seems to take you down or weigh you down, or that stands between you and the life that you envision for yourself.
Dr. Rowe, so I've asked people to post questions. If you want to raise your hand and get on video and ask a specific question to Dr. Rowe, you're welcome to do that, or have a comment that you want clarification on anything, you can do that now. I see a couple of questions popping in. Do you see them? Okay, go for it.
I see a few. Okay, wait. Okay, so one question is, can you address eating when you're feeling sad? Can you address not eating when you're feeling sad or depressed? This is from Renee. So that's often a response to feeling depressed. So the emotional eating is about overeating, but you have the other extreme, right? Your body just sort of shuts down. Your mind just says no to the food. So you don't feel hunger, you feel starvation, essentially. That's what your body, yeah. And then when you have, well, the way I would respond to this is, first of all, how long does it last? Does it last just when you're experiencing the feeling of sadness? So is it for a couple of hours, or is it something that goes on days, weeks? Because if it's days, it could go on for days. And is this about loss? Is it about loss, or like loss of a relationship, loss of a person that was dear to you, loss of a job, loss in any form? Is it about that typically?
No, it's not about loss. I have a mental health diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's related to that.
So depression?
Mm-hmm.
Depression.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So when that wave comes over, then I don't feel like eating. I skip meals. And then when it's over, then I'm feeling better. Or if I'm exercising and I'm doing better, then I'll start the whole thing of eating regularly. But if I'm feeling down, the whole eating, I just don't have the appetite, or I don't want to eat, I'll just say I'm not eating, and then it'll go on for days. So then I'll pick myself back up.
Right. Well, thank God that you do pick yourself back up when you get through it. Are you taking medication, Renee?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a whole other scenario, which is totally unrelated to this conversation, right? Yeah, because what you're talking about is literally a chemical imbalance in the brain, right? That's what it comes from. That's what the depression comes from. So it's a chemical imbalance in the brain. And if its effect on you is that you don't eat for a few days, but you are managing it with medication, then good on you, right?
Okay.
If you told me that you weren't eating for like weeks, then we have to have a different kind of conversation. But
right.
if you're managing it with medication, God bless you. Yes, absolutely. Then you're fine. As long as you're managing it with medication. Let's see. First, Tanisha and everybody, there's no such thing as a silly question. All questions are intelligent as far as I'm concerned. Is there a reason why food satisfies the negative feelings and makes them go away temporarily? Yes, and especially if we're talking about sugar. So sugar releases endorphins in the brain, right? It releases feel-good brain chemicals, right? So anything with sugar, not only does it release feel-good brain chemicals, it also causes cravings for more sugar. So for more sweet foods. So it is kind of it's one of those situations that's sort of self-fulfilling, if you will. So yeah, that's the reason. Now, and you said it satisfies the negative feelings or makes them go away temporarily. Temporarily is the key word, because when you get that sugar, so you get this a slow build from sugar, right? And it peaks, but when it peaks, you come crashing down, right? That's the effect of sugar on the brain. Just as it might release feel-good brain chemicals, that's also how it works in the body. So I would say for those kinds of foods, yes, they make you feel good temporarily. And then the other feelings, though, that usually follow that scenario are guilt. Because you ate, like, I have clients that eat like a whole cheesecake, or a whole chocolate cake. And then what do you feel? Guilty that you had it. So you have the food, it made you feel good, for a few minutes, right? And then you're full, and then you start feeling, oh my God, I shouldn't have eaten all of this. And now I can't really enjoy it. I feel badly about doing it. Oh, I'm never going to do this again. And then, it's this perpetuating cycle. Yeah. Yeah. So, so obviously there's a lot of work that we do to get you to the point where you're not eating the whole chocolate cake or the hunk of cheesecake or whatever the food is. But I will say this, for sugar and for sugar substitutes. So like there are, like if you drink sweetened drinks or eat foods that are sweetened with artificial sweeteners, just know that artificial sweeteners, most of them can be 6 to 10 or 100 times sweeter than sugar. And what that means is, though they are made of 0 calories, they don't contain calories. They do cause cravings for sweeter foods. And so what happens is, you first start eating a sliver of cake, but the more you feed your body artificial sweeteners in foods or drinks, then you want more. So you're not getting, nothing is as sweet anymore. So in other words, you start out with a little sliver of cake. Next thing you know, you go to a bigger piece of cake. And the next thing you know, you go to a hunk of cake. And then you're at the whole cake, right? Because it didn't taste as sweet as it had, when you first started this process, right? Because of the perpetuating cycle of the artificial sweeteners that cause more cravings for sugar. Okay, does that help? Okay, all right, great. All right, how do you sit with your feelings? Oh, okay. How do you sit with your feelings? So you allow yourself to feel whatever it is. So let's just say you feel so sad that you want to cry, right? I got to tell you that sometimes a good cry is the most cathartic experience you could have, right? You just allow the tears to come rushing, just let them fall. Allow yourself to cry. Allow yourself to scream. If you need to scream to the top of your voice, do that. Sit in the feelings that you are having, and you know why? Because that's how you connect to them. The opposite is to run away from them, and then you can't fix them, You can't fix the reasons you're having this experience and the reason you're having this reaction to this experience. You can't fix it if you don't face it. So you have to feel it. And feeling them actually helps you to process them in a healthier way. Because think about it, while you're sitting in them and you're feeling them, you're not at the refrigerator. You're not looking for food. What you're looking for is answers. Answers to the reason you feel the way you feel in that moment. And those answers are most often found in some experience that you had a long time ago. A long time ago. And you've learned to process life based on those experiences. So yeah, you do sit in those feelings and ask yourself at the time, why am I feeling this way? Why is it that when my coworker said something harmless or seemingly harmless, that I responded in a way that was angry? I was angry about what she said. And maybe, so your response is often over the top. It's a little bit more than the situation requires, right? But if there are feelings of sadness even, sit in them. Because the reason you want to sit in them, you want to allow them to come, is because you want to know what caused it in the first place. Why am I feeling this way at this particular time? What is it about this that makes me feel so sad? What is it about this that makes me feel so badly? Right? Okay. Somebody said, what did I answer your question, Melody and Tanisha? Okay, all right, good. Michelle wants to know, what about salt? So what about salt? Rather than sugar. So salt, yes. Usually we're talking about crunchy foods, right? Whether it's fried chicken or French fries or cheese curls or whatever the salt is. And there's some people who literally develop a taste for sugar as they're being fed as babies, as infants. And there's some people who just have natural taste buds for salt, for sour and salty and savory. Some people, the taste buds for savory foods that are more salty, more sour, more tangy, that kind of thing. Like I have that. Like I prefer tangy over sweet. But if you have a penchant for eating salty foods in your time of stress or in your time of dis-easement, then there are workarounds. And so, for example, if we're talking about salt, so like, I know a lot of people like potato chips, right? Who like a lot of people like potato chips and those kinds of foods. So if you like potato chips, so one of these little workarounds, but I would still want to know though, the reason why you crave, is it crunchy foods, Michelle, or just salty foods?
More crunchy and salty. Like okay. I'm a chip. I used to be really, really bad. I'm 1,000 times better than I used to, but it's
good for you. It's
chips.
So chips. So salty with crunchy. Crunchy is a whole other thing. Usually crunchy is about anger and frustration. Is that true for you? Yes. Okay. Anger and frustration. So the question becomes that you want to ask yourself is, why do I feel angry in this moment? Or why do I feel frustrated in this moment?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm going to go to your, what is it? Number 4. Oh. No, number 3.
Okay.
I'm going to work on that.
The one small change. And here's a tip. If you like potato chips, so I have something called cheesy chips. And cheesy chips are mozzarella stick cheese. You take a stick of mozzarella cheese and cut it. You slice it in small slices, right? And you put it on a non-stick cookie sheet. Now you're gonna put this in the oven and you're gonna bake it at about 350 or 400. It might be 400, but you gotta watch it because they get. What happens is they start to crisp around the edges. So the cheese, you're gonna, in a thin slice of the cheese, right?
What happens when you don't eat dairy? I don't eat dairy, but you could finish the story for others.
Okay, all right. But they have non-dairy mozzarella made of coconut milk. And yeah, they do. There is one non-dairy mozzarella cheese sticks, these. But so if you do, that's right, because I'm talking to a lot of vegans too, right? But there is there's non-dairy cheese as well. So, and mozzarella. So what you do is you put this in the oven, and what happens is those little slices become discs that flatten out. They melt down to what looks like potato chips, and they are crispy on the outer edge. And when you see it becoming crispy on the outer edge, that's when you want to take it out of the oven. You let them cool, and you just peel them right off of the cookie sheet, and they become a little crispy on the outer edge. And so now you're getting calcium, and you're getting actual nutrients, as opposed to the sodium that you're getting from the salt without the other nutritional benefit. And it works. It's a good mind trick, because I would also say try nuts, like try raw almonds rather than a bag of potato chips, right? And if you want to do potato chips, make them, if you have the time, thinly slice your potatoes, and throw those in the oven with a little olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. And that way you can control the sodium, and you can also control the fat. You're not frying them. It's not a deep fried situation. You're roasting them essentially, right? So that's another option.
That's a great idea.
Okay, perfect. Yay.
Thank you.
One for me. Okay. Okay, wait. Let me see. Tanya, trauma, eating for stress. Oh, stressful job, living with mother-in-law dementia. Welcome to my world, Tanya. That's what I'm saying. And a husband that is not nice because he should be on medication. Okay. That's why you comfort eat. How do you stop that? Well, first of all, we have to help you with workarounds for the stresses of your life. So you've got some things, you've got some real issues in your life that you're dealing with on a daily basis, and you're going to have workarounds for that. Like the mother-in-law with dementia, you're going to have workarounds for her. The relationship with your husband, you're going to need to have workarounds for him and for the two of you. And that's a much longer, that's several conversations, right? But you do need to have workarounds. Let me just end that in my answer to you with this. You remember I said earlier, everyone here is worthy, right? Everyone here is a life with purpose, right? Everyone here deserves love, respect, and care, self-care. Self-care means you've got to be the one who does it. You have to care for yourself. You must love yourself enough to make you the priority. Here's the truth. Your mother-in-law, God bless her, or your husband, those people who rely on you to help to take care of them are not going to get anything if you are not there. They can't get anything from you if you're not there, right? So in order for you to even be there for them, you got to be there for yourself first. You have to. This is without question, right? So self-care first, and then we could do workarounds. We could find workarounds for the situation with being the caretaker for your mother-in-law and the relationship with the husband. Okay. I love chips and crunchy. Okay, Selma, take my advice. Get those. Yep, plant-based. Okay. Oh, okay. So Stacy says I'm an amazing cook. I thank you for that. Your dentist suggests sliced almonds versus whole. She had emergency calls because someone had broken their teeth. Okay. Well, whole raw almonds are good, but if you want to do sliced, that's up to you, Penny. But just because your dentist had an emergency call from someone who had broken tooth, doesn't necessarily mean, I think it depends on the health of one's teeth, right? Kale chips, yes, kale chips are the best. I do love a good kale chip, little drizzle of extra virgin olive oil with some chili lime seasoning. Try that for on your kale chips. Okay, you're welcome, Tanya, glad to help. Can having an affirmation be a commitment? Yes. So Melody, you can have your own daily affirmations for that thing that you want to commit to changing. Yes, absolutely. And I'd love to see you do that. Okay, she had multiple emergency calls. All right. Well, just, slithered almonds or sliced almonds are just as good as whole. Just get them raw. I beg of you to get them raw rather than roasted or toasted almonds because of the sodium content. So that said, I would also say that if you are looking for a self-care, like I have a 30-day self-care package, which gives you not only like self-care recipes for like skin and like aching joints and painful joints and achy joints and a number of ailments like anxiety. I have like herbal recipes for anxiety. I have them for joint pain. I have them for arthritis. I have recipes for various baths that you can, do for yourself for this, that, or the other, including relaxation. So hit me up about that and I'll send you a link. Let's see, lime seasoning. Oh, powder. So Michelle wants to know, is it chili lime seasoning liquid or powder? It's powder, and you can find it in your grocery store. And if you don't see it in your in the seasoning, the spice section of your grocery store, then take a dried a powder, a lime powder. There's something called real lemon and there's something called real lime. So you could take that and mix it with a chili powder, and there you got your chili lime seasoning. Sprinkle that on your kale chips. It's amazing. So what I do is I bathe my kale in extra virgin olive oil, and then I put them on. I sprinkle the seasoning on the kale chips after I put it on a cookie sheet and run it in the oven to roast for like a few minutes, really, like 5 minutes for a batch of kale chips. Is it possible that you overeat because something tastes good and you're just greedy? Okay, Stacy. So
I'm just asking.
Well, overeating and eating to process emotions are two different things, right? Sure. So if you're greedy, but if you just like something, but we're talking about habitually overeating. We're talking about, we do this like most times.
The habit.
Rather than occasion, exactly. We do it most times and we're doing it specifically to process a negative feeling. That's what it is.
Gotcha.
That's the difference, right?
Okay.
So, Sharon Smith, are you Sharon Smith? Are you in DC, Sharon Smith?
Yes, Dr. Rowe.
Okay, so look, Sharon Smith is a dear friend, and she used to be my vet.
Yeah.
My very first Cocker Spaniel, Sharon used to be my vet. She taught me everything I knew. At the time, I was hosting my radio show and television show.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and she taught me.
We've been down a road now.
Yes. I love her. I love her daughter, who's a big television person. And so, yeah, it is so good to have you in the house tonight.
And my sister's on, too, I think, Terry.
Oh,
Terry.
Dr. Terry Moore should be on.
Okay.
Yeah, Terry.
Okay, cool. Oh, hey, Terry. Nice to see you. I am so glad you like it.
I'm glad we gotta get together.
Yes, we'll do that. Well, after the chat is over, we'll reconnect.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Is it possible? Okay, and how do we reach you? Okay, Stacy. I thought.
Yep.
Okay.
That's my job, right? Okay. I will make sure to leave the information in the chat. I'll also circulate it to everyone.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm Dr. Rowe at everythingrowe.com, but Stacy's gonna put it in the chat, or she'll put it in an email or however you circulate it. But Dr. Rowe spelled DRRO at everythingro.com. And yep, and I am one Dr. Rowe, just the number one, and DRRO on Facebook, and I am Everything Rowe at Instagram. On Instagram and Twitter, I'm at Everything Rowe. And on Facebook, I'm one Dr. Rowe, my page. Go to my page, follow me, like me, because I give a lot of information there. And I have private groups. I just started I have one private group called Sexy is the New Healthy. Healthy is the New Sexy, I'm sorry. So, or is it? No, sexy is the new healthy.
Healthy is the new, yeah, sexy is the new healthy.
Sexy is the new healthy, yeah. So I have this whole sexy brand thing. Like I have 5 days to sexy, I have 4 weeks to sexy, and these are all programs that I have. But I have a big group called Sexy is the New Healthy, and go there and join. Go there and make sure you answer the membership questions though, because I get a lot of requests and people say, hey, I didn't get in the group, you didn't let me in. I'm like, you didn't answer the questions. So make sure it's only 3. And it's just to give me more information about you so that I can help you, right? I want to know, like, these are, if you tell me that you have this kind of problem, or these are the kinds of things that you want help with, I know that, okay, those are some of the things that we'll talk about in the group, and I'll create stuff to help you. So yeah, make sure you answer the questions. But yeah, follow me at One Dr. Rowe if you're on Facebook, and follow me on Instagram at Everything Rowe, and Twitter at Everything Rowe if you're there. I do give a lot of information. And anybody familiar with Heart and Soul on BET? Did anybody ever watch? Is anybody familiar with? Okay, so I just started. Okay, great. So I don't know if you know this, but this year is the 40th anniversary of BET, of the network, right? The 40th anniversary. I met my husband 20 years ago at the first ever BET Awards after party. Okay, so BET is very very special to us. In addition to the fact that I did a show and was their medical correspondent for BET News. Well, I say all that to say, because it is in honor of the 40th anniversary, and because so many people have kind of said, hey, yeah, I've been watching you since you did Heart and Soul. I'm like, hey, we go way back. So I started a new group called Dr. Rowe Heart and Soul Fans. And so once you follow me at my Facebook page, I can send you an invite for you to join that group too. It's a public group, and we're going to be doing fun stuff in there. In Healthy is the New Sexy, you have an abundance of other women who are hugely supportive and who post their progress and their pitfalls and all of that stuff on their health and wellness journey. So yeah, you would have a lot of support in that group if you're looking for that kind of thing. And if you just want to join us for some fun, join them both. If you just want to have fun, Stacy is going to be part of the group. We're going to be doing some fun things in the group, including interviews from people who had something to do with the network, with the show. And Mocha Lee, my co-host, will be doing some stuff in there with me. Stacy is very modest. She hasn't said this. Stacy used to be my boss because she was over at BET.com, so she would hire me to write for her, to do stories for her. So at the time that I was doing Heart and Soul, yes, I was writing, but Stacy was my boss. So I have to say, yes, we go way.
I never looked at it that way.
I looked at it that way. I always did. And now she's my boss as my trainer. She's still bossing me around.
Push-ups tonight. No.
Yes, well, I just trained with her just this morning. So yeah.
Well, this has been wonderful. This really has been wonderful. I wish we could talk all night, but I know you all have lives. But I hope we at least were able to share some tools and gems with you that you can take and use in your own life to help you with emotional eating, stress eating, wherever you are in your life. And I thank you, Dr. Rowe. You're so awesome.
It is my absolute pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ladies, for showing up tonight. Thank you for showing up for yourself. Use whatever you got from this conversation to move your life forward. Connect with me. Let's stay connected. And let's see if we can help you to make even more progress. It's been a privilege and a pleasure. So thank you very much. Loving the hearts, loving the hands. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, ladies. Loving this group. I am loving this group. You are very engaging. You're beautiful. And I thank you all really for sharing your loving, beautiful energy with me tonight.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night. If you're in the Fit Life Squad, we have core and stretch in the morning. So show up for that too.
Gotcha.
All right. Y'all have a good night and we'll talk to you soon.
Sharon, Sharon, what do I need to do? Can you connect me with Sharon? Stacey?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, through Terry. I can connect you through Sharon to Sharon.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Just connect us up. Send her my information and send me hers.
Okay.
All right. Perfect.
Will do. All right. Thank you all.
All right, ladies.
Have a good night.
How did I do that?